Hello, this is Yoshito from the Library for Multilinguals, and today I'd like to talk to you about a very important concept that I talk about in my book, The Parent's Guide to Raising Multi-literate Children, and that concept is leverage, or leverage, as they say in the United States. But what's leverage? It's what helps you lift a very heavy weight up by just putting a little bit of pressure on the other side. So you have a weight here that you want to lift up, and by pushing a bit, you lift it very easily. And it's that ease that you want to create when you want to teach your child to read and write. Ease that you want to create for yourself as well, not just for your child. So it's something you can carry on easily, because learning to read and write is not something you do in a week and that's it. It takes a lot of practice, and you have to be consistent as a parent to help your child be consistent as well. So let's see what it consists in. So learning to read is quite difficult. It's not something that happens naturally, like when your child acquired how to speak in your language. They have to learn how to do that. And by definition, it requires effort. So because it's not going to be easy, you have to put everything you can on your side to be able to make the experience very enjoyable for your child to see the purpose of it and to want to carry on. So in this video, I'm going to talk about mainly two things. So first, leveraging the previous knowledge, what they know already that you can use to help your child learn to read and write. And second, I'm going to explain how you can help your child have a positive attitude about learning to read and write. It's a lot easier if your child wants to learn to read. When you start on this journey, your child already has a lot they know that they can use, reuse, to be able to learn to read and write more easily. And the more you use this previous knowledge, the easier it's going to feel for them, because they see, oh yeah, I know that, and it's similar to this. And even if they don't realize, you know that they know these things, and that's what you need to focus on to help them see that it's not difficult to read and write. So the first thing you want to do is to create this feeling of familiarity. You don't want your child to think, oh, it's too complicated, it's completely different from everything I know. They need to be a little bit familiar. So first, you probably read some books with them, and they're familiar. They know what it looks like. They can. So for example, in our family, we have French, English, Korean. We have books in Japanese as well. So we have basically 4 languages, but 3 different scripts, because French and English are the same. Korean and Japanese were different. From very early on, they were able to spot which book was in what language. So English or French, it was more because I was reading in English books. I was reading French books in French. Korean and Japanese. So Korean books, because I didn't speak Korean, I couldn't read Korean, I was just making it up. So I was reading them in French, but they were able to differentiate books in Korean and books in French. So from very early on, they were familiar with the way it looked like. They could see that Korean and French were looking different. So these books were Korean books, even if daddy were reading them in French, and these were French books. Okay, so that's the first step. The second step is that you want your child to be able to read or to recognize some characters, some letters, before you even say you're officially teaching them to read and write. Because the more they get upfront, the more familiar it will be, and the easier it will get for them to actually start on the journey and to try to work out the others, or to ask you about the other letters. They'll be more curious. So how do you do that? There are different ways. One way I've seen that they've done in my son's nurseries, so when they really started school, they couldn't read at all English. Outside the classroom, there was a table with all the names of all the students. And in the morning when we arrived, they had to pick up their name and put it on the presence board. So first, right at the beginning, there was the picture of the child and their name. So on one card. So they just had to basically find their picture, take it, and put it on the presence board. After that, the picture and the name cards together were put on the wall all together for the whole class. And on the desk, they just had the names labeled. So just the names written. And so the child could look at what their name looked like in a written way and find it on the table. Of course, at the beginning, the parents were helping, but little by little, every morning, because it was placed in a different way, they would have to find the shape they knew their names were. So they would pick it up and put it. And after a while, they wouldn't even need to look at the picture on the wall. They would recognize the name straight away. And from there, they went little by little the name or the word into different letters. At home, you can do the same. You can help them recognize the name and then take each letter, each character of the name and try to see if they can find it in a story you're reading. And then little by little, they're going to be more familiar and able to spot the different letters. At home, you can do the same by playing with letters, their names, etc. And so, for example, you have magnetic letters like these that you can find very easily anywhere. And if it's a different script, like for example, here I have Korean, you can play with that. So you have different characters and you can play with that and make it a story. So this is the letter K in Korean. So you can see it looks like a jaw, and you can pretend, for example, it's a crocodile that says k, 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 k. So k, 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 and trying to eat other letters. But this one is a superhero that has his head and a hat and little boosters or legs, and he can, when the crocodile is coming, k, 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 he can go hyu and fly away. And that's hyu in Korean. So you can invent stories like that with the characters, with the shape of the characters, to make your child play with them. And then they recognize that's the crocodile, and that's hyu. So this is basically what Alpha Blocks does, where they have each letter represented by one character. And for example, the I is very egocentric, talking always about themselves, I, etc. And then they can start recognize the characters and associate them with the letter. If you want to teach your child to read and write in English and you don't know Alpha Blocks, I really recommend it. It's great. And so by playing all of that with these letters and making up stories, you can help your child associate a character and a sound. And that's the beginning. But you do that so that they have all this knowledge before they even start learning to read and write. And so when you're officially starting on the journey, they already have all this knowledge and they can feel like they can do it. It's not difficult. Another thing you can leverage is, of course, the language they can speak already. They can say words even if they can't read them. As soon as they start recognizing a few letters, they're going to be able to read part of the words, and in the context or with the picture that represents the word, they'll be able to work out what it means. So for example, in French, you probably know that there are combinations of letters that are more or less difficult. So for example, a difficult one is E-A-U is pronounced O. So it has no O inside, but you pronounce it O. E-A-U. So for example, if I show the picture of a crow to my son and I write corbeau underneath, he can work out K-O-R-B. And then he knows that the name of the animal is corbeau, so he'll be able to work out. If I ask him, so what do you think E-A-U makes? He would say, okay, it's a corbeau, so K-O-R-B-O. And yeah, and that's it. So then you can say, okay, E-A-U is O, and you can then present a picture of a boat. A boat is a bateau. Again, your child is going to be able to work out B, A, T, and then remember that E-A-U is O, bateau. Okay? And you can then present the picture of a hat, and the hat is a chapeau. So chapeau, CH is another combination. In English, it's pronounced ch. In French, ch. So if, for example, for my son who goes to an English school, he'll have learned that CH is ch. And so he might pronounce it chapeau. Then I can say, is it chapeau or chapeau in French? And he'll know, because he knows the word, that in French you say chapeau, not chapeau. And then you can say, okay, so in English it's ch, in French it's sh. Comparing the languages they are learning, if it's a similar alphabet, is going to help your child remember it better as well. And to think, okay, that's French, that's English. If these examples that I've just done got you a bit confused at the end when I explained that CH was sh and not ch, it's a bit normal. Your child will be a bit confused as well if you add too many new things at the same time. So when you teach a child, make sure they have a lot of familiarity with everything they are doing and add a few new things at a time. So for example, if I'm introducing EAU is O, I'm not going to use examples with combinations of letters he doesn't know straight away. I can add it after when I see that he understands that EAU is O. In the resources pack that's available on the website, you have 9 sets of cards and a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, that's going to help you go step by step like that, choosing the graph themes that your child is familiar with, and go step by step so that you don't introduce too many new things at the same time, and you can find easily words that your child can work and play with the different games available in the book. One other thing you can leverage that I've just touched on is if your child can already read and write in one language, they'll be able to transfer a lot of this acquired knowledge into the new language. Whether, by the way, that's the case whether your child learns in the same alphabet or not. For example, for my son, when I taught him to read in Korean, I was able to use a lot English that he knew already from school to teach him Korean. So we've talked a lot about the previous knowledge your child has that you can reuse to teach them to read and write in your language. And I've also explained that being familiar with the language is going to help your child be positive about it, feeling that they can do it. And this positive attitude, positive mindset is really something you want to create to push it even further. Mark Rober made a very interesting TED Talk that talks about how you can leverage games and the positive feelings you have when you're playing games to learn anything you want. So I invite you to check that out. This positive feeling created by games is really what you want to bank on. It's going to give immediate feedback to your child that this is fun, but at the same time, they'll be willing to make the extra effort to read a word or read a sentence just to play the game. And because they'll be playing again and again and again, they'll be practicing a lot more. And that's how they become more confident with reading. And then once they can see they can read on their own, it will be a lot easier. All this journey starts from here, and it's going to be a lot easier afterwards. And that's why in my book, The Parent's Guide to Raising Multi-literate Children, I wanted to put just games and fun activities to be able to leverage this positive feeling they get, the immediate feedback they get that it's fun for them to carry on. So is having fun just magically going to teach your child to read and write? Not really. So first, of course, you need to include some literacy in there, but you can refer to all the activities in the book and see what each of them help your child develop. And that's going to be what's going to help your child learn better. And the other secret is consistency. And that's on you as the parent to help your child be consistent as well. So it's a work for both of you. You have to be consistent, and that's going to help your child be consistent on working on it. So how can you be consistent? You have to make it easy for you to do it. So for example, in my case, I'm a teacher. I work the whole day, Monday to Friday. So during the weekdays, I don't really have much time. But to stay consistent, the only thing I do is making sure we read a story together. So I always try to include a French book or a Korean book if it's with my wife. But we try to have that every single day. That keeps us going and keeps the literacy there. And they can see the value of being able to read because it gives them access to the books. On the weekend, that's when we do a bit more. So we do a few activities over the weekend where we do a bit more literacy, more actively than just reading books. And then you choose whatever feels right for you. You just need to find your balance. What works well for me, for example, might not work for you, and vice versa. So we all have to be aware of what's manageable for each of us. I hope this video gave you a few pointers as to what you can leverage and how you can leverage it to make your child's literacy journey pleasant and enjoyable for them and for you as well. If you have any comments or any questions you want to ask regarding how you can teach your child to read and write in your home language, feel free to comment below. Enjoy the journey. Bye!